What's up, guys? Welcome to Mass Effect Talks. I know I have it on time today, so yes! This is episode 26, and I'm going to be talking about the Hanar. There's not a lot of information on the Hanar, probably because we don't see them as much in Mass Effect. We do see them quite a bit, but not as much as other species, of course. I've always wanted to know more about the Hanar, though. They've always seemed really interesting to me, especially because they're so different from the other species. Their homeworld is Kaji. 90% of it is pretty much oceans. So the Hanar is a water-based species. And the interesting thing about them is that they can't support their weight when they're outside of the water. So the way that they float when they're out in the galaxy, in the Citadel or whatever, the way that they float is they actually use what's called a contragravitic levitation pack that uses Mass Effect fields. And what Mass Effect fields do, if you don't know how Mass Effect fields work, Mass Effect fields are created through element 0, and element 0 can increase or decrease the mass of an object when subjected to an electrical current. With a positive current, mass is increased, and with a negative current, mass is decreased. With this little pack that the Hanar use, or they probably have it implemented inside them because you don't see them carrying a little backpack or anything like that. But what that does, the way that they float, is because of that Mass Effect field. And since they have that electrical current already in them, it's most likely giving off a negative current so that it could decrease their mass, and therefore it's like this gravitational thing, and they float. I found that really interesting. I didn't know that about them. So that's the way that they could move around when they're outside of their home world, because they're pretty much just in the ocean. That's the way that they move around in the water. They're pretty equivalent to our jellyfish. They kind of look the same, the jellyfish and the Hanar, and they actually are. People do call them in Mass Effect. They call them jellyfish, or they'll call them jellies. But this is kind of a derogatory type of term when it comes to the Hanar, since they talk so polite, like extremely polite. I was even reading that sometimes they are so polite that sometimes it's considered a fault, because they can't interact with other people or other species, because other species don't talk that way. They don't talk in the proper form all the time. So when a Hanar is talking to another species and they hear them talking improper, the Hanar actually take offense to it. So they have to go to these classes, especially the Hanar that are going to leave their homeworld and interact with other species, especially like sellers. They have to learn how to accept that, how to understand that common tongue and not that proper language that they use. So when someone calls them a jelly, it's very derogatory for them. It's very inappropriate when it comes to them. So a little bit of biology about the Hanar. They are taller than a human, slightly taller. They have the tentacles that we all know, and they actually have 3 fingers on the base of the tentacle. So they could grip things, but they have Thane mentions that they have a pretty strong grip, and so does Zaid. Zaid says that he was almost strangled by one once, but they're not strong enough to lift more than a few hundred grams. That's why they don't really. That's why the Hanar don't really aren't involved in combat or your really physical type of activities, because they have that impediment. And then it's hard for them to move around, especially because this isn't their natural environment. When they're in their natural environment, I mean, Thane even says they're like, that's where they shine. But they can be kind of dangerous in their own way, because they could like Zaid said, they could strangle you if they wanted to, and they also secrete natural toxins, so they could poison you as well. I don't know how they poison you. I don't know if it's spit or it's kind of like your jellyfish where they sting you with their tentacles, or how that works, but they could poison you. It's unknown if Hanar have different genders. Or if they're asexual, where they're just, some jellyfish some jellyfish are asexual, where they don't have genders, and they kind of function as both. So it's unknown if the Hanar have that type of biology or not. Even though they evolved in the water, they still could breathe air, obviously, since they're floating around the galaxy. But some of them do use technological advancements in order to enable this. Maybe they implant these things in them so that it could make it easier for them. So on Kaji, like I said, it's pretty much 90% ocean. It orbits an energetic white star, so it pretty much has a permanent blanket of clouds, so it's always cloudy there. And there are also a lot of Prothean ruins in Kaji. This is why the Hanar pretty much worship the Protheans. They call them the Enkindlers. This is the Hanar religion, so they see the Protheans as these divine beings, or just worthy of worship, because the Protheans pretty much enlightened the Hanar. They taught them language, so that's why the Hanar really focus a lot on their speech, because they treat it as almost a divine influence, like a gift given to them by the Enkindlers. I talked about this in my previous Mass Effect talks, where I talked about the Drell, where the Hanar pretty much saved the Drell from their home planet, Rakana. Rakana was pretty much dried out. The Drell, they were reproducing too much, and their resources just dwindled to the point where a lot of Drell were dying. So the Hanar, in order to save the race, so that they didn't become extinct, they took a good amount, a few thousand of Drells off of Rakana and brought them to Kaji. So the Drell that's why the Drell are so connected to the Hanar, because the Hanar pretty much saved them from extinction. So the Drell have, in the past years since they were brought into Kaji, they have integrated themselves well into the Hanar society. Some outsiders may see the Drell as if they were a lower class or below the Hanar, or like almost a Hanar slaves, but they're not. The reason why they misunderstand this connection they have is because the Drell are willingly do favors for the Hanar. It's kind of like they feel it's their duty to help the Hanars in any way that they can, since the Hanar do have a lot of impediments when it comes to them leaving their natural environment, and they're given their biology, the tentacles and all that, they can't really do everything that they would want to. So when the Hanar want to do something, especially, that's why a lot of Drell are assassins, because the Hanar, you won't see a Hanar fighting crime or going out and killing somebody, because it's really hard for them. They probably wouldn't get very far. So they use the Drell as their assassins. So the Drell see themselves as a client race to the Hanar, not as slaves or as a underclass, where the Hanar pretty much take advantage of them. It's not like that. It's a mutual understanding and connection that they have. The Hanar communicate not only through speech, but also when they're within themselves. They use the sophisticated patterns of bioluminescence. So by the colors that they generate, since they have that electrical current in them, it's almost like a language, but it's not always visible by other races. So that's why the Drell, in order to understand them and to really appreciate them, they actually get implants so that they could see these colors, this bioluminescence, and they could actually learn the language as well. The Hanar have two names, their face names and their soul names. Thane talks about this in Mass Effect 2. The face name is what they're known as with strangers, just anything, just a name, like your generic name to be referred to as. The soul name is restricted to just family members or intimate relationships. So when someone knows a Hanar's soul name, it's a huge honor. It's like you're part of their family. And the name tends to be very poetic. It's not just like Joe. It means something, and it represents that Hanar in a specific way. For example, I was reading that a Hanar known for its cynicism may take a name that means illuminates the folly of the dancers. So that's their name. It's more of like a poetic little stanza instead of one word. I'm sure you guys have noticed they never speak, or at least not when they're among strangers or people or acquaintances that they haven't known for very long. They don't speak in the first person. They always speak in third person, and that is because that's also because of how polite they are. They never speak in the first person because they consider it as being egotistical. So that's why they say this one or it. They refer to themselves as in the third person. The Drell practice a religious holiday called Nyahir, also called the First Crescent Bloom. It lasts 13 days and revolves around celebrating the gift of speech. It's a mixture of contemplations, competitions, poetry battles, the faithful engaged in stylized debates. So it's pretty much just like a festival of you using your speech, like your speech skills, like your ultimate forensic team, that will make your communications teacher proud. Hanar economy is pretty small, just because they can't really create technology or products that will help or in any way interest other species, since they're so different. So their economy isn't very large, it's pretty small. They do create liquors that are pretty popular. And what they do in order to excavate valuable resources is they employ or they use robots. The Hanar government is known as the Illuminated Primacy, and we find out, I can't remember if it was in Mass Effect 2, but it was a conversation between a Solarian and a Turian. Shut it! That the Hanar are being considered as prospects for a council seat in the near future. Now, what they've done in order for this to be granted, or for them to be thinking about this so clearly, we don't know what it is that the Hanar did to earn a seat. But yeah, it's most likely that the Hanar will have a seat on the council in the near future. Maybe even in Mass Effect 3 they'll already be on the council. That'd be pretty cool to see them on the council, but who knows. A lot of species see the Hanar as... they have different feelings towards the Hanar, but some of them, they kind of see them as being elitists just because of the way that they talk. So some species will like undergrade the Hanar. They'll call them jellies or jellyfish, even if they know that is kind of derogatory for the Hanar. And they also see them as very imposing when it comes to their religion. If you remember that Hanar on the Citadel in Mass Effect 1 that was preaching about the Enkindlers, and the Turian CSEC officer was like, you can't do that, that's illegal, you can't just be, preaching out to the people without having a permit that allows him to preach legally in public. You could decide to help them or not and all that. But yeah, a lot of species see them as a little outspoken and kind of imposing when it comes to their beliefs and their religion and them preaching. But others see them as very intelligent, wise, and so there's different views, galactic relations when it comes to that. So that's pretty much it for the Hanar. I didn't find that much more, but I did want to mention Blasto, the Hanar Specter. Some people actually think that Blasto is a real Hanar, that he's an actual Hanar, but he's not. He's a fictional character in Mass Effect. He is the star of a movie called Blasto the Jellyfish Stings. And a lot of Hanar don't like this movie or this the whole idea of Blasto, because it's kind of like a farce. It's kind of making fun of them, and then the word jellyfish is in it. So it's they don't really, the Hanar don't really like this this idea for this movie, but it's pretty funny, and I love how it started. I didn't know about this, but the way that Blasto was formed was by one of the Mass Effect writers, Patrick Weeks. He, as a joke, he went on the BioWare forums, and they were asking, like, your ideal Mass Effect 2 squad member. And people were talking and blah, 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 they were giving their ideas. And then Patrick Weeks came up with this idea of Blasto. Like, he just said it was Blasto, the zany, multi-pistol-wielding Hanar gunslinger with a dark past, a heart of platinum, and the tendency to shout, "Enkindle this!" And then people just fell in love with him. Like, Blasto became super popular, and Patrick Weeks even said, "I'm never going to live that joke down." So they just brought Blasto into Mass Effect 2, which is awesome. I was like, wow, if I had been one of those people that read the original joke and then saw Blasto in Mass Effect 2, I would have flipped. I didn't know that about that, so I didn't get that that little connection there. But Blasto is just he's kind of like a fiction. He's based off of Dirty Harry Callahan. So yeah, like I said, a lot of Hanar see it as an ethnic slur, because it's kind of making fun of them. But the idea of Blasto is that he's the first Hanar Specter. He has a gun in every tentacle. He has a lover on every port. It's just hilarious. You hear these commercials, the advertisements that you hear on Ilium. You hear that's one of the advertisements that you hear is Blasto the Hanar Specter. And some things that he says is, this one has forgotten whether its heatsink is over capacity. It wonders whether the criminal scum considers itself fortunate. So yeah, that's Blasto the Hanar Specter, and he is a fictional character, so a lot of people actually ask for Blasto being a squad member for Mass Effect 3, but I don't know how they would do that since Blasto is a fictional character, and I don't think they'd do it anyways, just because it'd be too goofy, too silly. But Casey Hudson did say that they are going to be bringing back Blasto, the idea of Blasto, somehow, so it's going to be pretty good to see him, how they're going to incorporate him this time. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the Hanar. I hope you enjoyed that. It was really interesting reading about it. There wasn't that much for them, unfortunately. But yeah, we got a good idea about the Hanar. And next week, it's going to be a pretty interesting Mass Effect talks, because I'm going to go into explaining Mass Effect fields and dark energy. I'm doing a lot of research on that, and I'm not only going to give you the facts, but I'm also going to give you a few theories that I have over that. So don't miss that episode. It's going to be next week on Friday. I'm making it my New Year's resolution to get Mass Effect talks out on Fridays on time, not like at 12 a.m. where it's considered Saturday already. So I'm going to get them up on Fridays on time. I'll talk to you guys later.